Eat, Sleep, Box and Repeat. I'm delighted to be joined by Danny for our weekly bet and tip show. I know it's normally Elliot and myself, but yes, Danny's special guest this week. How are you?
All good, mate. I'll do well to live up to you and Elliot's hit rate in recent weeks, but looking forward to giving it a go.
Yeah, obviously this weekend we've got quite a big card on UK shores. Joyce is fighting Christian Hammer at the main event at Wembley Arena on Saturday night. Also on that card, you've got Jason Cunningham against Solani Tete. And you've also got Callum Johnson on the undercard there as well, looking to get a win to catapult himself back into world title contention. And then obviously not much stateside, but we've got a big enough fight down under. Obviously, quite a lot of people would say Breidis is the number one cruiserweight in the world, despite wanting to call out Jake Paul. But sure, that's for another day. But yes, he's fighting Opataya. I don't know how to pronounce his name, but it's something like that. He's an undefeated Australian fighter, 21-0 with 17 stoppages. But at what level, we don't know. So yeah, they're really the two big cards of the weekend. And without further ado, I'm going to hand over to you, Danny, to give me your first betting tip.
First betting tip, probably not the most original in the world. It's for the Joyce Hammer fight, and it's Joyce rounds 1 to 6 stoppage, which you can get at like 6 to 4 was around the sort of was coming. Because I was saying, I just think like Christian Hammer in terms of name is a decent opponent with who he's been in there. Obviously, you look at like Tyson Fury, beat Durkin Tepper, Hugh Fury recently, Frank Sanchez, stuff like that. But I think he is like properly washed at this stage, to be honest. The last fight I watched him was that Frank Sanchez fight, and Sanchez fought like the most conservative game plan ever, pot shotting mostly on the back foot, and still nearly stopped him. And Joyce could not adopt a more different style. So that's just really the question of this: is does it reach that sort of 6-round mark? And I think you can get the rounds 1 to 6 at 6 to 4, and then you can get 7 to 12 at under even. So I think if there is any value, it probably is in the 1 to 6, because I really don't think that Hammer has a lot left.
Yeah, no, interesting. I think you made an interesting point there that the Sanchez fight obviously did go the distance, but yeah, like you said, it was almost like Sanchez was just wanting to get the rounds, and it actually was more difficult for him to go the full distance than it was to stop him. It could have looked like he probably could have stopped him at any point.
Well, 100%.
And then obviously Tony Yoka went the distance, I believe, with Christian Hammer. But then you look at, obviously it was a good few years ago now. Fury stopped him, made him retire in the 8th round.
Yeah.
And the one that I think is quite telling is the Hughie Fury fight, which is
Definitely.
quite recent. Hughie Fury he's a great boxer on his day, but you wouldn't have him down as one of the biggest punchers in the division. And it only took 5 rounds for him to get the great Christian Hammer out of there. And then, you compare Hughie Fury to Joe Joyce, and Joe Joyce is just a wrecking ball. So yeah, I think that the rounds 1 to 6 definitely value there. And I've gone for a betting tip in the same fight, obviously, and I've gone with the Joyce stoppage, but I've gone for the middle rounds 5 to 8, believe it or not, which you can get at a price of 8 to 5. So not that indifferent to your price really. But the only reason I'm saying that is because hopefully it comes in round 5 or 6, and both of our bets come up this week. But the reason I'm saying not, I can't see it being the first 4. I just think that although ESA is probably washed and well past it, I made Elliot Grigg laugh by saying, "Did you know Christian Hammer still is actually younger than Joe Joyce?"
Yeah, I actually watched the preview video last night, and it's crazy that.
So you think that you have Joe Joyce as this youthful, still kind of prospect, but he's 36, and Christian Hammer's 34. So I think that although he is washed, I do think that he'll be able to weather an early Joyce storm, but I just think Joyce will eventually break him down at some stage, and I believe that'll be in the 58 round. So yeah, hopefully around 5 or 6, and we can both be bragging about our bets coming in then.
Yeah, fingers crossed, mate.
And I believe you have another one for us from the card I mentioned down in Australia with cruiserweight champion Breidis fighting.
Yeah, I'll be honest, before this fight was announced, hadn't heard much about Jai Opataya, but obviously, seeing the price, and you sort of expect Breidis would be like a big favourite, but he's not really. He's just over 1 to 2 you can sort of get at, and then with Opataya 17 to 10 I saw. Done a bit of research into Opataya. Was quite a good amateur, not elite, And as you say, he's undefeated with a decent KO record, but most of those opponents are sort of like obviously journeymen at the start, and anyone really would have heard of. But I watched some clips of him, and he's got quite good feet. He's only 26. He is quite athletic, and I think there's probably a chance Breidis definitely not past it or anything, but maybe is slowing down a bit at 37. Saying that, I do think Breidis will win. The main sort of factor being that he's been the distance and been into the later rounds and tough fights so many times, whereas this Opataya has only been 10 rounds once, and then after that it's 8 rounds once and then 6 rounds once, and that's it. So I think there's a chance Opataya could cause Breidis a bit of bother in the first 6 rounds, but I think Breidis will eventually wear him down and stop him down the stretch. So I've gone for Breidis around 7 to 12 stoppage in that one, which you can get at just over 3-1, 16-5. Again, it was a sort of mulling over whether maybe to back Opataya to see the full 12 rounds and go Breidis decision, but I just think the difference in levels that they've fought at is just it would be such a turn up if he could beat Breidis, given that. So I've gone Breidis to just wear him down and stop him second half of the fight, around 7 to 12.
Yeah, I think that's interesting and a good analysis from you. I think it's fair to say I didn't know a whole lot about Jay Opataya, but I do now after you explaining a bit more about him. But yeah, no, I think it's one of them where Breidis, you don't want to say he is on the decline because you look at some of his recent wins. I know he hasn't been as active as he probably would have wanted, but he still beat Dorticus and Glowacki and all recently, and you probably do. Barring maybe having, me and Elliot Grigg were breaking this down the other day, and it's probably between him and Okoli for who's the best cruiserweight in the world still. So even though he is 37, and that could be passive for a lot of other boxers, just the level he's still operating at, I think it is fair to say still one of the best. And
100%.
In comparison to Opataya, he's fought nobody near this level. So I think what you say there about him potentially seeing if he could maybe make it to 12 rounds, I could maybe see that, but I probably think he would get knocked down a few times. But I really do like your bet. I've gone for the same bet, but just not as ballsy as you. You've gone for around 7 to 12. I've just gone around for Breidis knockout at any time in the fight. However, if I was going to really want to hunt for some value, I think that your bet is far better because it's only 8 to 5 again. Like the Joyce bet, Breidis knockout is 8 to 5. But now that you've mentioned it, I don't think he'll blow Opataya away, especially with it being in his home crowd. I know that sometimes brings pressure, but he'll really want to put on a performance. And he is a big puncher, so although he's not been at the level, Breidis will have to be wary that this guy can whack no matter what.
He does look a good fighter from what I've seen of him, honestly. It's just translating from that eye test against fellas who are average at best to beating Morris Breidis. It's just a big ask.
Yeah, no, I do agree. I made the comparison. Obviously, it's because they're both, they're all both from Australasia. But I made the comparison that this guy kind of just at a glance gave me Joseph Parker vibes, where Joseph Parker was a massive name in New Zealand, like Opataya is in Australia. Didn't know a whole lot about him. Then he beat Andy Ruiz. And then he had the unification with Joshua. And now you look at Parker, and although he got beat, he's still hanging around fringe fighting for the title. And you never know with Opataya here. He's probably thinking, I've got nothing to lose here, even if I do lose, but put up a good fight. Of some of the other big cruiserweights will be wanting to fight me. Even some of our British fellas who are, you look at this, for example, look at that fight that got announced the other day, and Chris Billum-Smith and Isaac Chamberlain. The winner of that's obviously going to be the European champion, but they might maybe need one more. Say Opataya loses to Breidis, but he puts up a good fight. You could have someone like Opataya against either Chamberlain or Billum-Smith as kind of like a final eliminator. So he's going to, as long as he puts in a good performance, he probably, will show the world that he is a lot better than what we've heard of, because I think it's safe to say that in the UK, and obviously don't know about America, but he's very, very unknown. So yeah,
another thing as well you could say is because DAZN are looking to really push in Australia now in this big show starting over the summer. So if he puts in a big performance against Breidis, that'd have to be thinking in his head, right? Even if get a split decision loss or push him, DAZN, they'll be all over a big potential cruiserweight like that. So his motivation definitely won't be questioned at all.
Yeah, 100%. I think that's a great point, Danny. So yeah, obviously you've given us both of your singles. So if you put them into a double, what odds are you getting? What we're going to get off a £10 return, for example?
It pays just under 10 to 1, so a tenner gets you 105 back. So what's that, 19 to 2 or whatever, your bookmaker would have it at, which I think is definitely worth a stab. If you've done like the 2 singles as well, one of them gives you profit. It's like, don't come knocking at my door if either of them come in. Like that's what I'll be doing, probably the 2 singles and the double, which pays out at just under 10 to 1.
Yeah, interesting. I think that's definitely 10 to 1 for considering the 2 bets that we, it's very similar, our 2 bets. 10 to 1 at yours, I'm now more liking than mine. Mine's just 5.76 to 1. So at £10 gets you 67.60 to be precise. Yeah, but I kind of like in yours now. I think that if maybe I had gone for the Breidis second half of the fight, but yeah, no, interesting. I'm hopeful to see. It's very unlike when me and Elliot are doing this. There's very few times where we've both gone for the same bets in a sense, where they both might win. Whereas technically both of our doubles here and our singles could win. So hopefully we'll have both of our doubles come in and we're
Fingers crossed, man.
tops next week.
Right,
Danny, is there anything else you want to add? Is that it?
That's it from me, mate. Thanks for having me on. Looking forward to the fights. Looking forward to the winners. All's good.
Yes, thanks very much, Danny. I appreciate your time as always.
No problem, mate. Cheers.
Cheers, bye.